Hey guys, today I'm going to make a quick little video on how to use the lasso tool. I know it's something that I've been asked a lot and something that I briefly went across on the tier list. So anyways, let's just hop right into it. So before you do anything, you're going to have to check the anti-aliasing tab. And people may be wondering, what the hell is anti-aliasing? It's something I see a lot, even in my art programs and my video games, but I don't even know what the fuck it is. Yeah, I don't know why they named it like that, honestly. An easier way to remember anti-aliasing is anti-pixels. Whenever you have anti-aliasing turned on, it blurs the edges of things. So on your lasso tool, and this goes for even your pencil tool, because you even see it down here, anti-aliasing. It's on the tool property. The good thing about Clip Studio is that they actually lay it out for you. So there's none, which is, it's all pixely and shit. You see the crust around it. And then you have the extreme end of it, where it's all blurry. So this is strong. For the way I draw, I always have anti-aliasing off. And I'm gonna show you why. So whenever you draw something, and say like you already got the line art down, alright, so I just made a quick little meow skulls. This is from Fortnite, but anyways, say that this is your line art, and you said that you're pretty much ready to color. And whenever people color, they usually like using the magic wand, and whenever they use the magic wand, they like including the selections. So you have stuff like this where it's all trapped inside and it's nice and stuff, and when you go on to color, you bucket tool that selection. And you notice how like there's no like white spots and stuff. But sometimes when it comes down to it, like the G pen I have right now, it has no anti-aliasing. So that actually reduces the chances of you having that white crust around like the drawing. So I'm gonna show you like some really soft brush that sometimes people use. So right down here, I'm gonna change my G pen into more of a soft pen. So something like this instead of this. You can already notice the differences because the anti-aliased one with the strong blur, it looks a lot more softer and less crustier than this. But I'm gonna tell you why. This is actually better for coloring. So say you want to color something with a blurry line. This is what happens. With anti-aliasing, everything on the edge is so blurred that when you try to enclose color inside it, it's going to have trouble registering some of the edges. So you're gonna ultimately come up with these white lines. A good solution to that is, and with that you can come over to the tool property of the magic wand. There's a tolerance bar. And playing around with that, you can change the amount of coverage your pixels can get. So with like up to tolerance 62, whatever, play around with the bar as much as you want. I think before I had it on 0, so that's why like you could see there was a lot more white crust. But then like when I went over to like 75 per se, it's going to fix that a little bit. But going back on this point, when you use a pixely brush, you don't have to worry about tolerance because everything around it is already pixely. So it doesn't have trouble registering like the edges of a line because everything's crusty, everything's nice, it's all pixely. And it's solid. With this, it's a lot more blurrier, so the computer has a harder time registering it. With anti-aliasing understood, we can actually move on to the meat and potatoes of it all, the lasso tool itself. You see down here, I have the lasso tool set on anti-alias. You do not want that at all times. This is horrible. You want to have it all pixely. So when you lasso select something and color it, you can still see that there's a pixel edge around it. And that makes it a lot easier for me to select things inside the lasso selection because now I could do advanced shit like this. There's also 2 different types of lasso tools that you can get. The default one that they provide you is always the basic lasso where you can select, deselect shit. This is something I went over on the tier list, but say you draw something, you can actually add on to your selection by holding shift, but then you can also delete it by holding alt. So you can play around with shift and alt a bunch. And the best thing is that since it's the lasso tool, all your selections are going to just stay there. So after you get everything that you want, you can just lay down the color by holding it out. Alt delete pretty much essentially fills the whole canvas with color, but since you have the selection laid down, it will just color inside that selection. Or you could just bucket tool it, but I found that alt delete's a lot quicker. So there you go. This is what happens when you select everything that you want. Alt to delete, shift to add. Yeah, basic stuff. So going back here, if you magic wand this and You see how the magic wand can perfectly select everything because the edges are all pixely already? You can do some wacky, wild shit like this. So lasso fill tool is pretty much just a lasso tool, but without the marching ants. You instantly lay down the colors that you want without having to go through that first process of the marching ants. You instantly jump right into it. So with the combination of both the lasso tool, magic wand, and lasso fill tool, you can do some cool shit like this. So I already have the pre-established like ball thing that I already drew with the lasso. You can select it with the magic wand. You can actually draw inside it with the lasso fill tool. So the best part about this is that you can actually come back to the pre-established colors you've laid down and say that I want the first stripe of this ball to be green for whatever reason. You can actually do that. Or like the third line. So you can select it with the magic wand and just change the color that you want. And say that like this ball I want for some reason like to stagger it with yellow. So say you want the second and fourth line of the ball to also be yellow. You can also do that by selecting in between those and then adding the color you want. So something like this. So now you have variety. So essentially this is the main component for like how I can dish out like lineless art really quickly. It's because I use the combination of the lasso tool, lasso fill tool, and the magic wand. So I'm gonna make her eyeball real quick. So with all that knowledge of selection, so say you've already plotted down the top eyelid, you can deselect that part because that part you want it to be black. Then say you want her pupils to be yellow. You lay down the yellow part, cut it out by holding Alt and then shaving out the part that is the pupil. And now the last part is pretty much just the sclera or just the white part of the eyes. I can just lay it down like that. See how quick and easy it is? And since everything's a nice solid block color, I can come back to it with the magic wand and say I want to add a little lighting to her eyelid. You could do something like this. Or say that I want something more detailed in the eyes. I can do something like this, where I just selected the yellow part and then went in with the lasso fill tool and just quickly plotted something down. And say that I want the shading of the eye, I just do this. Select the white part and then lasso fill tool with the selection I already made with the magic wand. Hopefully this makes a little bit more sense, but definitely a lot of practice with these concepts in mind can speed things up really quickly. This is just one of the many ways of like how you can color. So say that you want line art in your pieces, that's completely fine. So say that for layer 1, I'm gonna expand this on the side real quick. So say layer 1, Meowskull's the line art is on layer 1. Just quickly make another layer, put it beneath your line art layer. Definitely helps to put a lighthouse on your thing. This is reference layer. Pretty much it just highlights, hey, this is the line art. But yeah, I'm gonna quickly get into just coloring this line art. So this is the base. And you want to go to a fresh new layer beneath that line art and slowly carve out the silhouette of the line art. Nice. So now we essentially have the silhouette. And if you turn off the line art, here's the silhouette of the head. So going back here, what you can do is actually move the lighthouse to the color layer and select that silhouette with your magic wand. So if I turn off the line art, it has the block of yellow selected. So now what you want to do, and a good tip that I learned was that it's like cutting paper. You actually want to start off with the smaller objects first. So since I already have the yellow down, I'm just going to cut out her little pupils. And to cut out, just remember, hold down Alt with the lasso in hand. And moving on to other smaller objects, it's probably her eyelid up here. So I'm just gonna make it purple and then cut it out with Alt. And then moving on to the whites, cutting it out like this. And just remember smaller objects, so just tongue, make it pink a little, and maybe a darker red, cut that out. And you can see how I made a little oopsie with the pink here. It's a little bit overshooting the lines. That's perfectly fine. You just have to hold down Shift and just add it back into the overall selection. And just bucket tool of Alt Delete and go back to carving out the shapes. She has a little fur pattern going on with her original design, so I'm just gonna follow that. So little like white spot around the mouth, a little bit of orange on the right side, a little bit on the blue, A little bit of blue on the left side. Carving everything out slowly, holding down Alt. And see how throughout this whole thing, I'm not actually clicking off the main selection of it all, because I'm actually cutting off most of the bigger silhouette that we saw earlier with the yellow block. I'm just changing the colors a little bit every single time. So now just moving on with the pink of the ears and black part of the beanie. And honestly, her hoodie is also black, so I'm just gonna click off the selection now. And this is essentially it. And you can see that, you know, there's slight imperfections. You can just come back into it. Lasso tool selection, Alt delete, Alt delete, Alt delete. Slowly just color back in the parts that you've missed with the overall selection by eyedroppering it and then selecting, Alt deleting it. So yeah, I'm just gonna chip away the colors on the edges right here. Perfect. So now we have the flats pretty much done. And if you turn off the line art, not the prettiest thing ever, but it gets the job done. So now we're gonna move on to shading and light. So you can either shade or lighten your thing with the line art on or off. It doesn't matter, but I'm gonna keep it on just for the overall look of it. So right now you wanna make a new layer, multiply, overlay, or how whatever blending modes you use to do your shading and lighting. And for flat graphics, you can even apply the lasso fill tool idea to this too. So going back here, you can select the eyes now perfectly fine. And it's all on one layer, so it's really nice. And see how they separate the beanie with the eyelids, with the pupils, all perfectly fine. This is what you want. So people typically have large ass files with like 50 different layers. You can see how all the colors that we did on with the lasso tool is all on one layer, and you can still come back into it and just color the things you want perfectly fine. So right now I'm just gonna shade in the eyes. Just be sure to be on the right layer for this. So I'm on my multiply layer, and while I'm on my multiply layer, since I'm already on the pupils itself, I can add some lighting too, since I already have it selected. Nice. So now we have a little bit more depth with the eyes. Adding a little slight blush, like this. Sweet. And I'm just gonna add a little bit of lighting for the blush to make it pop a bit. But yeah, that's essentially it. The whole idea is that you're just lasso tooling the things you want, selecting the colored parts, since we already have the flat colors down. Makes things a lot easier. You can even do some advanced shit with the gradient tool. And be sure to not shade on the flat colors, because it would kind of ruin your selection process of it. So I'm going to elaborate real quick. So say that I accidentally gradient tooled the flat colors. Now it's going to make the magic wand have a really difficult time selecting the hoodie and beanie part, because it doesn't know where to select, because gradient tool is a really soft thing. And for this whole thing to work, you're going to need that solid foundation, that crustiness, because those had defined edges. And with the gradient on top of the flat colors, it's hard for the computer to register what you want. So just be sure to put the gradient tool or any soft brush on a separate layer and have the thing that you want still selected, so it's contained within that area. And I'm just going to add a little bit more lighting on the beanie part. So turning back on the layer, you got something like this now. But yeah, hopefully that helps. I mean, like, I pretty much just do this throughout a whole illustration. It's a fun and quick process. I feel like something that not a lot of people know about, so I just want to get the knowledge out there. Hopefully everything made sense. If not, just leave a comment asking about like what part you want me to further elaborate on. But yeah, this is essentially just everything that I wanted to show you with the lasso tool. And let me know what other tools you guys want to learn about. See ya!